All of these seem great at first, but when you watch anime as much as I do, you easily become desensitized to the plethora of content that's available to consume. I find myself flicking through anime, watching one episode at a time to see what looks interesting and what seems to grab my attention. But sometimes it's hard to tell what direction a story is going because the storyline is just all over the place, and that's when I switch off. So when I saw this, I literally didn't know what to expect, other than that I was told not to take it at face value. And the more I watched, the more intrigued I became. And the more intrigued I was, the more I wanted to know about this world, what the citizens of Orth called the Abyss. And at some point I thought, thank God creativity isn't dead. And I really mean that in the various aspects of this anime. While the style may seem cutesy at first, the author really isn't afraid to f up a character. We see characters get mutated, die, eat each other, die from ascending, get turned into whistles. I mean, it's a lot. And so much so that getting eaten by creatures sounds like a blessing. And this is all to drive home the point that the Abyss is truly a treacherous world. But what exactly is it that makes Made in Abyss interesting and keeps the audience so entranced? There, of course, is the unique style, mysterious characters, peculiar beasts, and denizens of the Abyss. That's not to mention the innovative design of the Abyss itself. The imaginativeness is so insane, I'd be surprised if we see an anime with this level of creativity anytime soon. But I believe there is a method to the madness, which I will break down with what I think makes this anime tick. Let's start at the beginning with the bait. The bait is the part that lures us in. It keeps us curious enough to want to see where the story is going. Some people say they can listen to a song for a few seconds and know if they like it or not. So even first impressions count in any story. As we follow our protagonist, Rico, the story is shrouded in the mystery of the Abyss right off the cuff, which is really the bait that keeps you wanting to watch more. The town of Orth that surrounds the Abyss, a gaping hole of unimaginable depths, to which no one knows why it's there or how it came to be. We find that this whole civilization has set up camp there because they thrive and survive off practically anything that comes out of the Abyss, usually in the form of artifacts. These artifacts are also ranked depending on what they can do or how rare they are, which really makes you think what kind of world this is for such strange yet wondrous or terrifying things to come out from. But the mystery goes even further. The Whistles is both a title and a ranking system. The ranking of a whistle also determines how deep you can delve into the Abyss and still make it out alive, which introduces another curious phenomena of the Abyss, the Curse of the Abyss. The curse is an unseen veil that essentially deters a person from traveling back out of the Abyss, because the deeper you go, the harder it will be for you to return, with varying effects depending on the level you are returning from. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that it's clear that the story is heavily based on the world of the Abyss, and is where all the mystery stems from. The creator does a fantastic job by highlighting this early on in the story, with literally every aspect of the story hinting back at the Abyss. This is unlike any world we've ever seen before, so it's the creator's job to educate us in the ways of this new world. And while at first we just see the gigantic hull, we learn so much about the Abyss from casual conversation, which makes the overload of information so much easier to absorb. And this is all before we even enter the Abyss. I mean, if there was a narrator just giving us the whole story, that would be pretty boring and a waste of such good material. While it helps that most of these things are told from the perspective of an enthusiastic Rico, all these curious things only deepen the mystery of the Abyss. The whistles, the artifacts, the curse of the abyss, and even the denizens of the abyss. It's the mystery that keeps you around. It's what makes you come back for more. These mysteries are categorized into two types, which I call the one big mystery and little mysteries. The one big mystery signifies the mystery that directly surrounds the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal being why these characters have taken this path and embarked on this journey. In this case, it's Riko finding her mother. But this also gives us the opportunity to delve into the wondrously deadly world and find out what lies at the bottom of the abyss, since it's hinted that Riko's mom is likely somewhere way at the bottom, beyond any recorded levels. And then there are the little mysteries, which are more curiosities that arise during our character's journey of accomplishing their goal. Like, is Riko's mom still alive? Is she even at the bottom of the abyss? Why would any mother want her child to go into the abyss? Will we encounter more white whistles? What does the abyss look like beyond the known recorded levels? How did the abyss even come to be? Who made Reg? We could go on with these forever. And when there are enough questions you want answers to, the more reason you want to stay to find out. It's the combination of the one big mystery, the little mysteries, and the challenge. And maybe a little hint of hope. Add some good presentation and timing, and you've got yourself a story that people will come back to for more. The challenge. I think the best way to plot any character against the world is to highlight their shortcomings. As a child, you could only accomplish so much. This is a concept you don't need to be in another world to understand, even in this world where humans can become more powerful, and something more akin to an entity or even more similar to the beasts of the abyss itself. Riko is still just a child and just a red whistle, which is the second lowest rank of all the whistles. And as a red whistle, you cannot physically handle returning from anywhere lower than the first layer of the abyss. So when Riko says she wants to go into the abyss to find her mother, I believe her, yet I don't really want to stop her. And when we eventually delve into the abyss, this only opens a whole new avenue of curiosity, because after learning how dangerous it is, our minds weigh heavily on the possibility of Riko's demise. I think the most terrifying part of this story is watching this innocent little girl traverse into the depths of the abyss, knowing that the further down she goes, the more dangerous the abyss becomes. Then there's the fact that we don't know everything about the abyss, and Riko essentially delves into the abyss practically blind, with hardly much of a plan other than to find her mother. With every literal step she takes down, the possibility of her death constantly looms if she slips up. And for the most part, I'm caught with mixed feelings of wondering how the hell is she gonna survive this treacherous place, but at the same time, I want to know what's down there. I want to see what the world looks like the further down we go. I want to meet the other white whistles and find out, oddly enough, how twisted or powerful they are, what relics they're found, and what these relics do, what type of creatures we will encounter with every layer we descend to. But I'm getting a little carried away here. The challenges all add to the main story. It wouldn't be much of a challenge if Riko could simply zipline all the way to the bottom of the abyss using Reg's arms. Well, it's fair to say that Reg's powers have gotten Riko out of trouble. We know there are a good amount of limitations to this power and how often he can use it, so they can't always rely on it to get them out of a bind. Also, later down the line, he loses one of his arms, so he gets nerfed, but this makes their journey a bit harder and adds another level of danger, because without his remaining arm, they're essentially screwed. Oh wait, Vapid is here now. Psh, we'll be fine, right? Though it's not super unrealistic for Riko to be optimistic and unprepared, She is a child, so it's pretty much expected. But it is the unknown of how Riko will make it all the way to the bottom is what makes the story all the more enticing. Which brings us to my next point, hope. Hope is the one thing you're rooting for the characters to achieve at the end of their journey, which ties in with the challenges, because without the challenges, we wouldn't necessarily hope for a specific outcome. While Riko is a child and weak, she's got enough smarts that gives us the impression that if she plays her cards right, she might make it out alive. And I mean, make it to the bottom alive, because there's no way in hell she's returning to the surface. She's determined and optimistic, even when their situation seems hopeless. Heck, she's even a character that will befriend someone who tried to kill her. And yet, the simple aspect of wanting to find her mother tugs at our humanity. She's definitely a character we want to see succeed in the face of all odds. We would feel utterly robbed if everyone got to the bottom of the abyss and everyone just died. It would make anyone feel completely hollow and feel like the whole journey was for nothing. While it may be a realistic outcome, it's definitely not the one we're hoping for. The presentation and timing is everything. The timing of when information is provided and the presentation of how the story is portrayed could make or break your story. If Riko's journey started out while she was already descending down the abyss, we could quickly figure out how dangerous it is, but the impact wouldn't be the same if we didn't know the dangers before Riko enters the abyss, and knowing how impossible it is for a child. If we got to the Golden City without really knowing the history, we could surely find out along the way, but the impact wouldn't be the same when we, for example, see these characters. Sure, the character design helps, but you would never know without ever having seen these characters to begin with, before their transformation. And when we eventually realize Fapuda's origins, well, damn, that's rough. And in any mystery, it feels good as the audience to piece together and figure things out for yourself before truths are revealed in the story. But that opportunity only arises when you have been given enough information to do so. So, to recap, the bait. First impressions and a spark of curiosity. Something to keep your audience watching past the first episode or reading past the first chapter. An introduction to the big mystery, if you will. Have a general big mystery and a single burning question your audience desperately wants an answer to. This is also tied to your protagonist's main goal. Little mysteries. The many mysteries that arise while your protagonist journeys to accomplish their goal, to keep your audience guessing and have multiple questions they want answers to. The challenge. The many obstacles that highlights the gravity of how difficult it is and how difficult it would be for your protagonist to achieve their goal. This will help your audience stick around for the journey and eager to discover exactly how your protagonist will overcome these challenges. Hope. Give your audience something to hope for and the glimmer of the possibility that your characters can actually achieve their goal when faced against all odds. This ties in with the challenges because the more difficult the challenge, the more your audience has to hope for, even if it's just staying alive. Presentation and timing. Carefully plot when you plan to reveal information and how it will be presented. Give your audience little bits of information to figure out answers to questions, but not enough to ruin a big reveal that makes up a pivotal part of your story. That way, they will feel rewarded for paying close attention to your story, but would still stay tuned to find out how the story plays out. So ask yourself, what are the reasons that keep you wanting to watch Made in Abyss? And how can you make a story that gives your audience enough reasons to stay? So in closing, I just want to add, while the manga was questionably disturbing for reasons I will not mention, what I will say is it's way worse than the anime and seriously made me cringe, which makes the anime seem like the light version. Also, I have a belly button phobia now. That aside, there are a select few anime that I can count on my one hand that after watching, I was so impatient I just had to read the manga to get closure. For this, I would say don't be like me and be patient and watch the anime. The animation company brings the manga to life so brilliantly that the soundtrack is just perfection, and oddly enough, gives me butterflies and the excitement of a 3-year-old child. It's probably one of the few soundtracks I find myself coming back to, and wow, it's so powerful that I even get emotional just listening to it. Sappy, I know, but that's just how I feel about anything that has real heart and soul put into it, because you can't fake that kind of passion. Anyway, that's all for today. Stay evil, kiddos.